Good afternoon, folks. It's rainy Sunday afternoon in Aiken, South Carolina, high atop the garage. Jim Voss with Just My Opinion. Horrible dateline from Memphis, Tennessee. I spent nearly 45 years of my life in law enforcement, and I do not believe since the Rodney King case in California have I ever seen such badge-heavy brutality, with 5 officers on numerous body cams who just beat to death Tyre Nichols. To watch that, it appeared to me that Mr. Nichols turned into the bait, and these officers, I hate to even call them police officers, but these officers became the pack of hungry wolves. And it appears that when Mr. Nichols would try and block their kicks and stomps and strikes, that it enraged them that he would have the audacity to try and protect himself. Now, the police officers tried to say that Mr. Nichols was trying to run away. And I believe in that very time, Mr. Nichols knew his life was in peril. He was about to lose his life to this senseless beating. Any person with common sense would have tried to free themselves and run away. This reminds me of the senseless beating of Rodney King out in California, with the multiple officers using batons and what I have been trained in PR-24s. That stuff's made out of bowling ball material. You know it's hard. And they worked on him for 30 solid minutes. They went to the neck, which is not a striking area. They went to the shoulders. They went to the knees. They went to the ankles. Anything. This man ended up with over 120 bruises on him. Now, they say that he tried to grab their gun. That's part of the videotape that you never see. Still, you're talking about 5 officers against 1. Any officer that has a department that's worth a crap is carrying a threat level 3 holster. In other words, that officer must push down on the weapon and pull forward just to get it out of the holster. It prevents someone from grabbing your weapon. Also, in that situation, you have different techniques of weapon retention that you're taught in every academy. After spending 45 years in law enforcement, I hang my head in disbelief and in shame that these, way back when with Rodney King, but these local yokels that were all of the same color. It wasn't a race thing. Mr. Nichols was black also. Young man, 29 years old. From every aspect, his family, his friends, the people that knew him said he was a great young man, a productive young man, with aspirations to move on in life. Having his life cut short at 29 years of age. He's not even middle age yet. He hasn't had a chance to arrive. And these worthless, badge-heavy, thinking they're God, took this man's life. Now, they went, first of all, for second-degree murder because they did not kill him there. He died 2 days later from the beating. Listen, that's apples and oranges. We are not going to split that hair. They took his life, whether it happened that moment, 24, 48, 72 hours, a week, a month, whatever. They killed Mr. Nichols. And I hope that the justice system does not follow the one that was in California. I hope that the justice system in Memphis gives these sorry police dirtbags a slow walk to a gas chamber or an electric chair. I don't know what Tennessee uses, whatever. and I hope they fry every one of them. Because you see, to give them life without parole, they can ask for asylum, so to speak, in a federal prison that is for police officers only, because they know the general population will kill them, which that wouldn't be a bad thing. Probably be beaten to death. Now, it costs $87,000 a year to keep this person alive in prison. I don't feel like laying out that kind of tax money for these sorry suckers. That's all there is to it. And I hope that they get the needle, the gas chamber, the electric chair, whatever Tennessee is using this day. I just hope they do. So, we're going to move on to another segment. You have to pardon my cats. They kind of run back and forth when I'm trying to do my business here. I'm hoping and praying that the Memphis people do not destroy that city. You see, that kind of violence and that kind of venting doesn't leave you anything but a burned down community. It's not going to bring Mr. Nichols back. It's not going to ensure that justice is served. It just tears away and leaves you without a neighborhood. So I'm hoping that they will let justice prevail, because I believe times changed, and now these officer beatings aren't swept under the rug. Now, with everybody having cameras, and especially with the officers having to have body cameras, you can't say. I remember I was a cop in the 70s. You could say whatever happened at a crime scene, and that's the way it was. Especially if you had another officer to back you up. I don't care what you did wrong. You wrote up the report, and that's the way it was. That's the way it went to court. That's what the jury believed. And that's how the judge handed down his sentence. And I watched a lot of people get away with a lot of stuff they should have been punished for. Can't do that now. Everybody and their brother's got a phone that turns into a camera, and now all officers pretty much are required to wear these body cams. So you do the do, and it's going to be right there on YouTube pretty soon. Let's take a step back to the 4 college students from the Midwest. Such beautiful young people, absolutely slaughtered in their apartment. I can understand when someone goes after the attacker and kills him out of vengeance. A father goes after the rapist of his daughter. You know, that kind of makes some kind of sense, I guess. But what I cannot understand is a murder. A vicious murder with no motive, no reason, no common sense. These 4 kids were just enjoying the start of their lives, 19, 20, 21 years old. They're in college, they're having free time, fun time. It's part of growing up. Those are the years that you should enjoy the start of your life before you have to hunker down and pay all the bills and do all that other stuff that makes you an adult. But this guy goes in and he just disembowels, cuts up these kids. Life nowadays just doesn't seem to have any meaning. It doesn't have any worth. I mean, a guy will kill you on the subway because you looked at him wrong, or you said something to him he didn't like. The vengeance that manifests itself as these people get older, normally it doesn't happen with this 19, 20-year-old good-looking young man, got a lot of future in front of him, that he just goes into that house. He knows them. He knows he's not supposed to be there. The one other roommate sees him and knows he's not supposed to be there, so she goes and hides. Where does that seed get planted? Here in the United States, we have the most horrible games that we allow our children to play, where they get bonus points for killing people and they get lesser points for maiming them. They get points for killing the cops. And we see these movies, these slasher movies that come out, and the videos, and they sell millions of copies of someone just disemboweling another human being. You remember back in the old days, you're not as old as I am, I'm sure. But back in the old days of the murder mysteries and the whodunits, all those shows that I still love to watch, Columbo and all that. You hear the gunshot, and the person may have a little patch of blood on them, and that's the murder scene. You see, that's all that you see. And now we've got to see the guts being blown out the back, or the person being decapitated in order for it to be entertainment. Well, they've pretty much screwed up the rating systems at the movies and for these videos that come out. But we now say it's okay for a 14-year-old to look at this kid go to school and have a rampage of killing the people he doesn't like. And lo and behold, when he turns 15, this kid says, I'll get the bullies back. And he goes to school and he kills a bunch of kids. We ingrain our youth into believing that life is worthless, that it has no value. I was watching a trial about a year ago, and the 15-year-old that shot his buddy and killed him, you know what he said? Billy didn't get back up. In other words, he couldn't reconstitute Billy. He couldn't bring him back to life with the click of a button. And there's one thing that I am glad of. I like it when they get the killer alive. You say, because that's the cat I want to study, and I want him interrogated, and I want him pumped and depumped by the psychiatrist and the psychologist, whatever they do. But I want to find out how his mind thinks. What I think is the coward is the person that goes in and kills 8 or 10 people and then turns the gun on himself. So what you got? You got a dead person. Dead people don't talk. And so you can't plan on how to prevent the next similar crime. You see, you got a dead person. That's all. And the only thing you can garner from that is what his friends said. Well, what are his friends going to say? He was a moody person, or he was a natural kid. He didn't have a problem in the world. He was a nice guy. Lived next door for 10 years, and he never said a cross word to me. I like it when we get the guy alive. The guy that puts the hole in that theory of mine is the famous Helter Skelter and his clan, Charles Manson and the family. You see, the LaBiancas were murdered and Sharon Tate was murdered simply because they were pissed off at the cops. They hated at that time, the establishment. They were picked as if it were a roll of dice. The beautiful Sharon Tate and the LaBianca family were slaughtered by the Manson family for no reason, to show outrage for no reason. And Charlie stayed on death row, 40 years? And never gave a reason for having that family kill those people. None of the girls or the boy, none of them ever gave a reason except that Charlie had told them to do it. And they thought he was some kind of messiah. How many lives have been lost for no reason? Think about the gang issue right now. The gang, to get creds, to get jumped in, you get jumped in, beat in, sexed in. That's the way the gangs work. I know it. Studied enough in law enforcement. To jump in means you got to go out there and kill somebody. You got to get street creds. You either got to go out and do a robbery, you got to go out and kill someone, you got to go out and maim someone that has done something wrong, probably against the gang. Beat in at the last place that I was proud to be the assistant chief at Powell Assets. We had a beat-in stick. It was a large axe handle. It's signed by everyone, and they would just beat the crap out of you, and you get beat in. Now, the girls, they got sexed in. In other words, everyone who was a male had their turn at her in order for her to get part of that. And the bottom line for a gang is this. They look for what they can't get at home. They look for love, security, and being part of a family. I think it's time that we tried to be part of a family again. Stop worrying about what time the club is going to close and if you're going to get there. Spend some extra time with your kids catching ball. Spend some extra time with your kids doing their homework, because I'm telling you, I'm struggling with the two that I just adopted of my grandchildren, and it is a struggle now with the poor way the schools are being taught. I think if we did that and we looked at the violence as a whole and we put back into place a real system of censorship, I'm not talking about violating anyone's rights. I'm talking about preventing a young child from seeing a person disemboweled. Those kinds of things. Or just watch the head being blown up by a high velocity missile or projectile. We've got to find out where we were. Alex Haley once said, you never know where you're going till you know where you've been. We've got to get back to a place to where we were in the 1970s in Florence, South Carolina, while I was first a police officer. We had on a maximum one murder per year. And it was a biggie. It was an in-home invasion, robbery, rape, something like that turned into a murder. And now, 10 or 12 a month is no big deal. Many go unsolved because many minorities will not rat on someone else. And that's sad. You watch someone lose their life, but you want to keep your street cred by not cooperating with the police. I hope you enjoyed these three topics of heinous crimes. And it's just my opinion, but I believe that the people that are listening to this broadcast will agree. We've got to take a second look at life and find out where we are and evaluate how we are raising our kids and what our grandchildren will grow up to be. Once again, high above my garage, Aiken, South Carolina, on a rainy Sunday afternoon. My name is Jim Voss, and this has been Just My Opinion. I hope you like it. We still have to take that warm shower together, and we still have to get that beer and go bowling. Okay? You take care of yourself. Now, if I can find this little button over here, we will